once again. It's still a continuation of the manual testing. Have you started recording, Rose?
Yes.
Fantastic. So, good evening, everyone. Again, so it's still the manual testing class continuation. So, if we remember, we'll continue for where we stopped yesterday. So, we did. Yesterday was mainly SDLC and STLC. That's what we're meant to cover yesterday. But we'll dwell more on the SDLC side. Today, I'll be taking mainly STLC. That's what we'll be doing today. And also tell you I'll be touching on how to your defect, the defect life cycle, the priority severity. I'll be explaining that today, and also I'll tell you this the difference between both SDLC and STLC. There are things you already know. And final bit of it, I'm going to talk of types of testing, and we'll end the class with types of review for today. I'll be as precise as possible. So yesterday we talked about the life cycle. I did explain this to you, and I related this with fundamental test process that we learned in our initial class, the background when we started background of manual testing. So each of these phases, you're all familiar with it. So what we started yesterday was mainly taking each of the phase. When I mean phase, this one was each of these phase, requirement analysis, test planning, everything we want to start saying what we as testers do. Now, software testing life cycle is more to do with us, is predominantly for us. So so that we will understand our activity in the development life cycle, what the expectation is for us. That's what we are doing today. So I explained that one. I gave you the acronym. It stands for Software Development Life Cycle. I explained that type yesterday. What is the role of that, of the STLC? I said even the most talented, highly skilled team of developers, mistakes can still happen as a result of human nature. The role of software testing lifecycle is to identify any mistakes that have been made and find solution for them, helping to maintain the quality of every piece of software produced and ensuring that the project requirements are met. So that takes us to the phases of STLC. So those phases are what we want to talk. And we've got six of the phases. The first one, requirement analysis, test planning, test case development, environment setup, talk about test execution, and the final one, test cycle closure. It's still mainly activities of requirement analysis. So what are the activities we said yesterday? Identify the types of tests to be performed and assigned to the development, gather details about testing priorities and focus, prepare the RTM, requirement traceability matrix. I explained to you how that is done, but you'll see it in full. Identify test environment details where testing is supposed to be carried out. So the identification is mainly once you'll be given the URL. That's the meaning of identify. Let me explain to you. Most of these things that you see, that the words, the way words are used, is just to make everything look so professional and what you are doing. As I've told you, I said instead of it to say you are writing a test plan, you are designing a test plan. It's still the same thing as writing. But we don't want to use the common one that people, what is a writing and writing? You're designing it. So make it so professional so that people, it will be understood by everyone. We understand what you're doing. So just then conduct automation feasibility analysis if needed. So we talked about deliverables of requirements to produce the RTM document. What this starts for is the requirement traceability um, metrics document. So it's just merely an Excel sheet. In the Excel, all the requirements you can pick up, even if you don't want to do it while you're doing your test cases. Naturally, when you're writing your test cases, each of your test cases will have an ID. If you cannot add it while you are writing your test cases, you could take maybe the first page of your Excel sheet, just like the first cover, the first sheet. You could make copy of the requirements there. Any test case that you have done, just be writing the number in the next column. Just that. So requirement in one, then the test cases will be all the numbers in it. So we know that requirement search functionality, it has test case ID, maybe TE 49. I don't know. I'm just giving an example. So we will know that that is it. So when by the time we go to the test case tab, I don't need to search further. I look at the search functionality and I will see number 49 is on search functionality. Just for good test coverage. In in the next class, test coverage, test case design will be what we'll be working on next week. And test management. So this time around, we've got also, I explained automation visibility report. You see the word if applicable. So if we need a report for automation, how you design your automation candidate. I explained yesterday that a functionality that is being used all the time, that you know the rush on the functionality, the pressure on the functionality is much, is good to automate it. I gave you an example of a login scenario. So in the login scenario, I said that if a lot of people, of course, definitely before you can access an before I can access an application or go to a website, if you want to see more in the website, regardless of the line page, you want to know what the website does, you need to register, you need to log in. So when you do registration, login, you will know severally people they need to log in at any time they need to use that to use the website. So you will know one of your main automation candidates will be the login functionality, so that when once people want to log in, it's done automatically. They don't need to do so. That's things like that you can think about it when it comes to automation candidate. But most of the time, automation cannot be done 100%. We need to validate manually. It has to be done manually. No 100% automation. You still have to perform manual testing. So test planning, we said test planning, we explained the test planning phase is usually conducted by, okay, the QA manager. That's the expectation. But let me take that phrase out. The QA manager is always conducted. You can see, I chose this word conducted by the QA manager. So what does it mean to conduct? You have to organize it. I'm the QA manager. I can tell I can tell you all, pick Alex, pick Rose, pick Esther, pick anyone and tell you in the team, please, you are going to be the one to write the test plan. Or I can tell the three of you, work together. And when you work together in the test plan, you all take each part that you're going to bring together as one document for me. So you can do the overview in scope item. The next person could do the testing functionality part of it. The other person could take the environment, the milestones, and also assumptions and dependencies. All these phases, I could give it to five people to come together and do it. We all review the document together. So that's why I said it's conducted by the QA manager. I'm not to write it. I can choose to write it. I can do it, but it's I can delegate people to do it. That's what it means. It involves creating test plan and test strategy document, along with determining the effort and cost estimate for the entire project. So that is what test plan is all about. You get it. So test plan, It's going to tell you, we are going to talk about in your test plan, you will have the overview. What is the overview? So, like a project mandate, that is an overview, just in on high level. Tell us exactly what we actually want to achieve. That's it on a high level. So tell after then it moves further to say the objectives. What are the objectives? You state the objective. This is the essence. The project is tasked to do XYZ. So that is the objective. The next thing you go to, what are the things in scope? You should have been given in your user stories. So tell us, let's know the scope item, out of scope. What are the things out of scope? Is going to be part of the things you're going to put in you're going to design in your test plan. So now we also have deliverables. What are the deliverables? What I mean deliverables? What documents do we as testers need to provide? Talk about the test plan. Talk about the defect sheet. Talk about the test case execution, and also the test script as a whole. So all those deliverables that we need to put RTM um, the RTM document just to show that we at least we've mapped everything. It's just a cover. Of course, if we've got test data, so like the logs that we have, so any test data that we are going to use, or we have used, we are going to put them, we are going to document them. So those are your deliverables. It's not that you have them, but you are going to state it in your test plan. Talk about resources. So we are going to talk about resources also there. Who are the resources? So it's going to be under roles and responsibility. What the roles and responsibility? Who is going to be the developer of this project? Who is going to be the data analyst, who is going to be doing the penetration testing, who is going to be doing security testing if there's anything that has to do with security. Talk about so names will be assigned to it. So each role have to have names assigned to it. So you need an SME for each of them. So you as a tester, your name should be there. So you are going to be the one to design the script, right? Design the test plan, work with XYZ to design the test plan. Test execution is going to be done by you. So all those things. Now we need a mitigation plan. It might be two of you that is drafted on a big project. If we've got tight deadlines, so you let them know if it's tight and it's this thing. We would need help from resources. Name two, three resources that you need or testing team, so they'll be able to pull people into the project. So those are the kind of mitigate the plans that we have when we are writing it. So we've got assumptions, dependency, constraints, anything, things like that go into your test plan document. It means I'm already teaching you this. It's going to be in the next class. But once I touch base on it now, it's easier when I start talking about it in the plan. So what are the activities in the test plan? One, preparation of test plan, strategy document. So test plan, test strategy. It's you might think it's a like for like. No, there's a bigger one. The bigger one is the test plan. That test plan is the high level, the big one. The test strategy is a detailed rule book for you and I. That is done. Test plan is reviewed by the whole team entirely. So what you're trying to say is that we are transparent as testers. This is our own activity. This is what we want to do to be able to deliver a good project. So this is our expectation. This is what we want to do. That's what that test plan gives us. Now the test strategy brings a baseline to say this is what we want to do. These are the types of testing we want to do. All this test strategy goes into that bit of it. You will see some similarities when it comes there, and you see some differences. Selecting any tools required during testing. So now, in your own case, there are tools that you already that's been selected for you. In the market now, is that mainly if you know how to use Azure very well, um, Azure DevOps. So it's what is correct. It's a selling point now. So in your CV, you must write it as a tool there. Those are buzzing words for your CV. So when you're writing your CV, your technical snapshot, we need buzzing words so that when when it goes onto the database, it picks it up, it flags it that, oh, she's used Azure, so definitely you've got an experience with it. I'll advise you throughout this your internship. It's very nice. Play with it, break the Azure. When I mean break it, play with it, anything. Make any mistake. Don't wait for anybody to tell you. If you are trying it, you cannot do it. Make that mistake. If you make a mistake and you understand your mistake, believe you me, you will never make that mistake again. So it's easier. You'll be able to help people when you get to the organization. It's the same platform, the same thing that you're saying. That's the same thing I use at work. That's the same thing others too will use if they are doing the same thing. So play with that tool very well. So in selection of the tool, if you get to an organization where they don't have tools, so maybe like now you're writing your manual test cases, you could just bring it out. I always like to push for things like that. You can get to an organization where they don't have things, you push for it. It makes you look like the pro that you are. It brings it out in you. So you tell them, I've used Azure DevOps. We can use it to run a test, to be able to get the test report. We can have an organized environment where you have user stories. You've got the test cases assigned to each of them. We can be moving tasks from there. You can advise on that. So all these are the kind of things. So look at it, any tool that you feel. And in terms of automation too, you can advise on that too. The next, test effort estimation. What is effort estimation? So how long are they going to, is it going to take us? So XYZ, we've got this. Once it's delivered, how long are we going to do it? So we need those estimates. So if you're doing a login functionality in this sprint, we just need to have an estimate to know what exactly are you going to do? What is the effort there? So when you're designing your estimate, bring it out. Test plan. In writing test plan, you put some points there. That's a tax. It is a tax. So writing test case, designing a test case, it's a tax. So testing in terms of execution of some numbers in your test case is a tax. So all these are the estimates you need to put. Don't just say you don't take all your tax and chunk it as one. If you put it as one, it doesn't make them know what you're doing. It's not visible. How can you have one tax and you're taking 3 weeks, 4 weeks to execute one tax? No. So for visibility, for them to be able to move it, create your tax plan, test plan. In your test plan should be first tax. If you don't finish that test plan, don't put, once you take test plan, take that task, move it to in progress. Be working on your test plan. Even if you finish the test plan today, you can't put it there today. Test plan needs to be reviewed. It needs to be peer reviewed by others. So when you now finish it, you put it in peer review. So it means you've given it. And before you can put it in peer review, you send an email to your whole team to say, we have designed the test plan to the developers. Please, can you read and let us know by close of play, close of business. Um, just give them maybe 5 days within that range. So just so that once you give a date and you send a reminder. So if you put it on Monday, you send it out on Monday. By Wednesday, send a reminder. Thursday, send a reminder. Friday, if they don't come back with anything, silence is golden. So it means that if they don't come out to say anything, what it means is that we agree to everything you have said. We have given it to you. As long as they did not say anything, they are all aware, because your expectation is that they should read it. And if they are not, by end of the day, oh, thank you all. In the absence of um, no comment, we'll say thank you, and that's the end of it. We have put it in issued state. So you change it from version 1 to 1.0. So which is means you have an issued test plan ready to work for. So what does that mean? You put your test plan in completed. These documents are subject to updates. It is not rigid. You can update it. It is allowed. Then the next thing goes to, after you have done that, you now tell them, oh, my next task is test case. Don't bring the whole test case together. Which user story are you working on? We are working on login functionality. So your test case this time around is going to be based on the login functionality for this. Reason I'm emphasizing on this is that when you start your test sprint, when you start committing tasks, don't ask that how do you commit tasks. These are the ways to commit tasks. So any feature that you're testing is a tax. So you make sure you add it as a tax there. So if you feel it's a big task, how many points do you want to put in it? It depends on if the developer is taking 5 points to do that. I'll advise you, you take 5 points because you also need to. By and large, don't make it too small. Put it in three so that you can take all the whole thing to test. So those are the way you just get it balanced until you get, so that's testing effort. So the next one is training requirements. So like you and I now, you also, you as colleagues, you can start training like others have been going through, looking at some training document is very good. Look, I love to do this training all the time. Do you know the reason? It's a refresher. I have to read all the time. Before you think, because I know the slide, I know it at the back of my mind. And before I come here today, I would I, I would have done some things while I'm walking to get myself prepared. I know what I'm going to say, but new things can come up at any time. And you also, as a person, need to test yourself in the market that you are still functioning. So I train myself to in little ways. So it's not, no one is an island of its own. You can teach me, I can teach you. We're learning from each other. So that's the essence of. So what are the deliverables of test plan? So test plan document, we've talked about it. There's an ICEB certified definition of it, which we are going to go through. So you can see what they say. The test plan is describing the scope, approach, resources, and schedules of intended test activities. The next thing is test estimation. This document will include estimation of how long it will take you to complete the testing tasks. Simple. And you see that the same thing I've said initially are things that are already here. So how long is going to take you? Be very careful of how you commit your tasks. I know you can do it quickly. Yes, in the internship, I expect you to be as quick as everything. In the internship, you have to be very quick, proactive, because you want to learn more. You want to get everything in at a go. So you must learn quickly. So that's the deliverables of them. So let's say test case development. So today I'm going to scratch the ground of test case development before next week that we are going to go deep into it. So in test case development phase involves the creation of test cases for each unit and any test script once the test plan is ready. So anyone creating test cases before test plan is a wrong process. You should create the test plan. We should have a test plan. When you get to an organization where you want to start work, when you're starting today, you cannot, at least you don't know what the project is all about. So tell me, what test case do you want to develop? So the first thing to onboard you is to tell you we are working on project XYZ. We have test plan. They give you the test document. We have a process map. They'll give it to you. These are the requirements. They share vital documents. But in a quote, you might get to a place where there's no test plan. So once there's no test plan, that should sink into you that that's your first task. And the way you put that test plan down can be just your selling point throughout throughout that job. If you design a good test plan, you give it to them, and you have a good goal for that test plan. I'm telling you, people don't need to talk to you again. They will say, oh, he really knows what he's doing. When people tell you that first impression lasts longer, it's good. It really it's really good to give people a good first impression about you. So if you have a good test plan, you put it down. You send it the way you send it to. Please, can you review? Whosoever have comment, you put the comment. I'm going to show you how this is going to be done. There's a document control page. That will be the first after your main page for the project in terms of cover note for your test plan. The next page is going to be your document control. So what do we mean by document control? You are the one that you wrote the test plan, for example. So the first test plan is written by you. Anything is just the initial draft. It's an initial draft. So you've got after the next one will be people that you're going to share the document with. You put their names and their roles and responsibilities there. The next thing is if you've got maybe any document you want to also make visible there, or the documents that you've used to design that, you can put it in that document control session. So it's there. So what it means that after you are finished, if they've reviewed it, maybe once I've written a test plan, um, a colleague or a developer A reviews and sends his comment via email. Do this and that. We need an explanation on this. And so the next thing you put on the control is um, developer A is the name. The name. What did the developer A say? Try and let's know the types of testing or the approach you are going to take. So you put it, that's just the comment, feedback. That's it. The date, he made it, put the date there. Then that's the end of it. Go there, make the corrections, send it back. Are you happy with it? We continue the loop until the final document is produced. So that's the main test case development phase. So activities in test case development. One, preparing test cases and automation script if applicable. So there is you will understand there is test cases, and there is test script. So there's a difference between test cases and the script. The script is a whole document as large. So I've written test cases. That's a script. Test cases are the steps, the necessary steps, the scenarios that you've covered. That's it. It is not a full script until it is executed. That's it. I'm going to explain to you, show you an example in the next class. Enumerating the possible action of the users and the objectives. So now you are mimicking the user, you're standing in gap for the user. That's what that means. The next thing is that set priorities of test conditions. So when you're writing test cases, there are test conditions, there are test steps, there are descriptions to it. So you need to. So setting priorities of test condition. You know, in the class, the first class, the background class, where we talked about errors, we're talking about test case, and while I was scratching, I talked about priority. I said prioritizing. That's when we're talking about when is testing enough. You set your priority. I mentioned three things: testing and risk, testing and quality. Enough is enough. That is what exactly this is telling you. Setting the priorities of test conditions. Selecting the condition under which testing will take place. So you need to know your conditions. So we are still going back to general testing principles. So talk about testing is context dependent. All these are the things that I told you that that's the same thing we are going to be documenting any test condition. Please, anytime you are testing, make sure you have every possible picture, every possible documentation, do it. If you're told to test the bug, when you test the bug, whenever you finish testing the bug, it is not complete until it has a screenshot of the pass of that document. That is when you close that bug. Please and please, when you raise a bug, ensure when you're raising your bug, step to reproduce the bug is there. A screenshot. I'll explain all this today. So that's the way that one goes. Then verifying, let me see, 38. Verifying and correcting the test cases based on modification. So I told you yesterday that when you're writing test cases, our expectation is that you shouldn't know anything. You shouldn't have seen a developed um, application. You should write your test cases before you start testing. Your test cases are derived from the user story, the requirements that you have. That's what you. So while you are testing, when you are given the application, you walk it through because whatever you have looked at in the requirement, it should follow suit in the development. So anywhere you see a drift, you need to ask question. In the requirement, it said the login should be on the right hand side of this application. How come yours is at the left hand side, far at the end? Why is it so? It is compulsory. You should ask that question. So all those details you must ask. Then if they don't tell you, oh, then please, business analyst, can you update the user story to effect that? Simple. You are not telling, it's not that you're telling them how to do their job, but we also are testing based on what the information they've given us. So if they've given us an information and you test, the document is not updated, and you come now, you test, and maybe in a year time, they come and ask you, why did you test? The requirement says login should be in the middle. Didn't you test it at all? Yes, I tested it. I asked that question, but I was told that we should leave it like that. What is the proof? Nothing. So, whosoever has told you to leave it like that could is word of mouth. He could say, no, I didn't tell you that. You should have checked. That's, look, when it comes to job, we don't know anybody. You have to. That's what you have to defend yourself. So that's why I said, how do you defend yourself? Emails cannot be, even if he deletes it in his own, it cannot be deleted in yours. Once you've opened it, you cannot retrieve that email. It's a long time. So you can quickly search and find that out. So those are the activities to be performed. What are the deliverables of test case development? One, test cases. This is a set of action that test a particular piece of functionality of the software project. Test data. The input is given to a software program during the execution of these test cases. So let's take an example. Login functionality. What is the test data? They said username. Username should be maybe email. Is a username is email. So you have to test various version of email. So the happy part, I can put yemi at test.com. If it's a valid one, then it's fine. I can try putting yemi at and leave it. Don't put anything. I can try putting yemi only. That's it. Those are test data that I'm playing with. I am imputing those test data to be able to execute various versions, to play around, to break that application. What is your job as a tester? Is to break the application. What is breaking the application means? Make sure you look for every scenario that will cut off uh, that will make that application fail. And if you find one, and people and you are told that, oh no, that's not it, please speak up. Write, reproduce the step. Take a screenshot every step that you have taken to do it. Send it via email so that we are all aware of it at any time. Test automation script. So in of course in the internship you are going to be taught automation, how to script. These are scripts created by automation engineers with the so yourself and I, with the idea of them being run frequently to reduce the reliance on manual testing. So that's the reason why it is. So those are the deliverables of test case. So the next phase that we're talking about is the test environment setup. The test environment consists of elements that support test execution. The setup of the testing environment is done based on the hardware and software requirement list. So this the setup. There are teams that work on the environment setup. The DB infrastructure team, developers too can help in their own little way, but not a full in depth of it. So, but of course, you'll be taught. I mean, they will give you the environment, your test environment to do. The test environment should mimic the production environment. So you see that anything that we are going to see in production is what we start testing from test environment onwards. So it should be a very close, in fact, more like what is in production. Because most of the time, data in production are run into all this environment. So what I mean is that the DB or the developers um, take a copy of production, take them to each of these environments, development environment, test environment, UAT, pre-prod. They run that script so that we all have the same data in production, also in all the environment, so that we can play with it in those environments before it gets to production. The test environment should mimic the production environment as closely as possible to uncover any environmental or configuration related issues. Hence, this phase can go in parallel with test case development phase. You can see that they put test case development phase as it's not that one you are designing it. That is the phase. You'll be wondering test case development, test case. What exactly is writing test case? But is the development phase. So you two are trying to. We are also developing those test cases. That's it. You are implementing it. You are developing it. Those are the things that you're doing to the test case. So please always use all these words. What are the activities of our environment setup? Analyzing the requirements and preparing the list of required hardware and software to set up the test environment. Set up the environment. Executing a smoke test on this environment to validate the readiness and stability of the test environment. So, smoke test is type of testing. We're going to talk about them. So, in smoke test, is just for you to push to be able to when they tell you once you are given the test environment, you don't just start testing immediately. I'm giving you everything. So I don't want you to say that we don't have tax to put on board. No. Smoke test is a tax, but it's not going to be a long one. It could be an hour. It depends on how big whatever you're doing. So smoke test is just when a build is deployed into a test environment. The smoke test is just to check it. That of course, what are the normal things to check? You're able to log in. If you're able to log in, it's fine. You can still see some functionality there. It's fine. That's the smoke test. That's what it means about smoke test. So it's a tax. You have to put smoke test. So if you have put smoke test there, then you can start. If there is retesting of bug fixes, you have to. All these tax, they are tax. They shouldn't be chunked together. If not, it will look as if no, you don't have. If I'm looking at a sprint, if I break down my tax for you, you'll be wondering that when I finish my tax, people always ask me that, do you have time to even do anything at all? All this tax. It's just I like things to be going accordingly. That's the way it is. And that is what our expectation as software tester is using the STLC um, process. That is our expectation. It's not that so that I don't miss any step of the process. If I miss a step of the process, I have not achieved the exact thing STLC is preaching. Is telling us, follow the process, do this. He has given us a breakdown of how to do the process. We are still not following the rules. Let me tell you, you can get to most of organization. They don't, they might not follow the process. But I tell you, you can start little by putting this in place. You will see that very soon a lot of people will copy you. Before you open, before you say Jack Robinson, they've all they've all started using your method because is that's the way for developers. They are very if they are writing login function, they will see their own. They will tell you coding for this to do this and this and by the time he writes one line and he takes the second line, he does it. You'll be wondering that is he going to finish this whole thing in this thing? That one line could just take him maybe 5 minutes or an hour. But he knows it's a step. That's the first step is meant to take. Before I go there, before I do this. So you to follow the same step. So what are the deliverables of test environment setup? One, test environment is ready for test execution phase. So that is what you are smoke testing. Two, smoke test results. So every of your smoke test must have a result. So before you start anything, you must create a smoke test script. Smoke test is just a checklist. So what I mean is that your smoke test, you could just say in the smoke test, check access or one, validate the URL. Two, you would have checked it means checking the URL. Two, check the um, login functionality, username, password you've gone. Then the third thing is that ensure you can the website is launched. That is it. Then just few checks. Is other features just one or two? Are they still there? Yes, they are there. That's a smoke test. So even if it's 5 or 10, even if it's 4, just make sure a smoke test pack you have it down. Then you can see the results and just take a screenshot so that once they come, oh, the first thing is that when you have a build, sorry, let's smoke test it before we start testing. They might ask you that, what do you mean? Yes, we have to check that everything is fine because you just deployed a build before we can start testing. Test execution. Test execution phase is the execution of test cases that have been created as a result of the test case development phase. You can see the way they are taking it. So now you took test case development, you did test case test script as a whole. When someone is breaking this down into bit and bit to make our work easier for us, we want to chunk it as one. So be very careful when you are creating your tags. That's everything I'm just trying to preach and talk about tonight. So this is done by the testing team. So you and I, we want to do it. Where bugs are reported back to the development team for them to fix, with retesting to be performed. So retesting is also another type of testing. What does it mean? Retest. You have found the bug. We want to retest it. So that's it. So there are two words: smoke test, sanity test. They go hand in hand. Retesting, regression. Those are twin words too. Let me tell you, these twin words I'm telling you. So pick a pen again. Smoke test, sanity test. They are two different words. But they work hand in hand. People mix it up a lot. Then the other one is retesting and regression. They mix it up. Retesting, regression. I'm going to explain it further when we go. To be performed at another time, depending on the software development methodology that the project is following. We are following Agile. So once it's fixed, you need to test it before we move further. So what are the activities of text execution phase? One, execution of the test cases. Definitely. That's you two can see that from all this, you will understand that where we are going to. Recording results in the company test case management tool. So it depends on always use the word it depends on the organization, because not everyone, not every organization, the way each one of them work are different. So we all just get there, whatever wherever you've worked, bring out your own idea, see what it works. Let's see, can we accommodate it? Can we adopt it? Then will talk as a team, come together. We can. And if you're the only one, whoo, you have all the whole chance to give to them everything you've got from yourself. So recording test in the test in the management tool, you can even use spreadsheet to do it. You can when you execute your test cases, there are ways you can see the reports in the tools that you use. So the next thing, reporting any defect for any failed test cases. So you have to report a defect. How do you report a defect? The first thing is you create a step to reproduce the defect. For example, if you try to do your login details and you've put valid details and you're unable to log in, you've tried severally, you have checked and you're unable to log in, then you need to raise a defect and let them know. And I would tell you a trick. Whenever you are doing it, you will see it. Any picture you're taking, make sure you take it with your endpoint. Don't forget, yesterday I told you your endpoint is your URL, so that whosoever is picking it up can see the URL. They will not say, oh, you are lying, because most of the time, let me tell you, the thing is that if you don't raise a defect and put it quickly, if you tell a developer that, oh, I'm unable to log in, I can't see it, by the time you are raising that defect, they fix that bug. They've put the bug in test environment. By the time you tell him, he just tell you that you did not test that. Are you sure? Check it again. By the time you check, don't forget you've already raised the defect. How do you feel? How will you feel? So the first thing is that for people to, if you don't raise defect, if you are not testing, if you don't raise defect, defect is like, this is the money you are paying me for. Ah, I've raised this defect, or look at it, or this is it. That's the trick about this. So then the next thing, retesting any defects after these have been fixed by the development team. Now, what are the deliverables of test execution? Report of any defects that have been raised during the test execution phase. It has to be part of your TCR. That's test closure report. It must be. You must overall summary of test case results. So I've explained to you during our fundamental process. I said during the analysis and design phase, um, and also the execution and during the implementation and execution phase. If you've done 10 test cases, you don't tell them that you've done 10 test cases. We work with percentage. 50% of them passed, 30 failed, 20 blocked. So those are the ways you break down your test cases. So that takes us to test cycle closure. So this phase involves the analysis and evaluation of the whole testing cycle to work out what worked and what didn't work. So we have said enough is enough. We have we've tested. We, if, if you notice since yesterday, when I'm delivering my lecture, I refer back to the beginning of the lecture. Reason is that that's the background. I told you that all through in my class from the beginning till the end is a repetition of every phase you are going to be doing in, in your testing career. So I will keep referring to it because manual testing is the main foundation of any test you want to do in your career. You don't understand it, believe you me, you cannot fit into that market. You will come into look you we know ourselves when it comes to delivering these things. When you get outside there, we might just ignore, but we know ourselves, we know what you know. So, but if you follow that process, we know that this is fresh blood. This is just coming into the market. And that gives me when I see my people and the way they work, I'm excited. I will want to help you with all this strength. But when you know people are just coming to give you, no, no, you have to be careful when it comes to that. So, test closure phase involves analysis and evaluation of the whole testing cycle to work out what worked and what didn't work. What's the time now? 59. The QA team meets to evaluate the cycle execution criteria based on the test coverage, the quality, the time, the cost, software and business objective. So we come together to look at what we have covered. Test coverage is a big topic in the next class. That is what will lead us to the test case design technique. So, software and business objective. The bug and test cases reported are analyzed to identify the distribution of defects based on severity and type. So, it will take us further today. We are going to talk about severity and priority. All that two word again, severity, priority. So, these two, the priority and severity, interview questions. Look, every two words that I've given you, if it's possible today, let me tell you from today, just take a jotter, not a jotter that you can rip out, that you can rip out. No, the ones, even if it's just little jotter, make it as your testing Bible. What I do is that I've got people that work together that we've been working together. You know them, they're part of. So they know me. If I go for an interview, when I come back from the interview, I don't talk to people when I'm coming from it. I come back with all the questions and I jot back all my questions. I'll answer it. When I put the question, I will answer everything diligently inside that my testing Bible. Now call me. Have you done an interview in this place? Yes, I've done an interview. I'll just take a screenshot from there. I'll send it to you. I will be able to tell you. But that question that I've jotted down, I can't miss it again in any other interview. So even as I'm working now, I will be doing interview. It's not that you will need the job, but you need to have something here that will make you know that yes, I'm still relevant in the market. You all are coming in. So, and if you know technology is fast growing, a lot of things are coming out. So we all need to be testing the various water to make sure that yes, we are still in the game of testing. If not, we also will be kicked out very soon. We're getting old, so we have to be running and making sure that we are still there. Is experience. So that's the way it is. So take those two words again, severity and priority. Thank you. So another after completion of test cycle, the test metrics and test closure report will be created. So what are the metrics? I'll explain to you again. So metrics involves number of test case created, number executed, the number closed. So after you state each of them in numbers, then you do the percentage of the analysis. Just that's it. And you add it in your report. In fact, when you do an RETM, requirement traceability matrix, and you add all this, you finish that your test completion report. So then the activities, preparation of test closure reports, certainly. Evaluate the cycle completion criteria based on the test coverage quality, time, cost, software, and business objective. Prepare the test metrics based on the above parameters. What are the deliverables of the test cycle closure? Is a test metrics, test closure report, a document that gives a summary of all the tests conducted during the software development lifecycle. It also gives a detailed analysis of the bugs removed and errors found. So that's the whole thing about STLC. But we still need some things under STLC. That takes us to defect life cycle. You know, I keep using this life cycle so that you will understand that how the defect, how they start until they mature, until they are finished, until they are completed. So from the start to completion phase, that's what we want to talk about. So the defect life cycle describes the difference between states, the different states a bug can be in through its entire life. It can also be referred to as bug life cycle, meaning that because it's a defect is also known as bug. So it's just every phase, every entire states that the defect is what it takes there. The defect life cycle also involves the classification of different priorities and severities of the bugs identified to the testing team. So defect priority refers to the order in which defect should be resolved. Defect priority. Defect priority refers to the order in which defect should be resolved. From QA's perspective, from your perspective. Likewise, severity. It classifies the impact of the defect and complexity of the fix from the development team perspective. So, but let me explain to you in a simple term. Priority. Let's take login. Login. Login as we want to weigh it with priority and severity. So for priority. So when you're writing your defect, there's a priority state and there is a severity state. How do you explain this? Login is an example. The question to you is that If you try to log in and you're unable to log in, what does it mean? You can't use that application. You can't continue testing. When you think about it, if you rate it from one, two, three, four, one being the highest, and in that order, from you, I'll go to the I'll go to the chat. I've said that if, for instance, um I'll go through your questions, please, everyone. Don't worry, I'll go through them. But quickly, just with fast fingers, I just want you to know, because I want to quickly explain this parity and severity. So for parity, if in the login you were told to test login, you've passed the stage of smoke testing, but you want to smoke test that login environment, and you tried to log in. The first thing is that when you try to log in, you used correct details, correct username, correct password, valid details, and you're unable to log in. Can you continue testing? Yes or no? Just put it in the chat. Yes or no? You cannot log in. You cannot see the application. Will you be able to continue testing? Are we sleeping already?
No.
No.
No, we
So
are not sleeping.
fantastic. Okay, fantastic. So, no, no, great, great. I can see your no. I can see. So now, the question is, let's take from 1 to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 being the highest. If you cannot test, you're already blocked doing your work. If I tell you to put the priority, what will you take as the priority? Will it be 4? Will it be 4? When 1 is the highest. So what will you take? Fun. I'm looking
One.
at this.
One.
1, 1, 1. Correct. Correct. Good. Great. 1. That's fine. 1 is the highest. So, which means we have rated it because we know we can't continue testing. It's affecting us. That's the priority. So now severity is that login functionality. How do you think is going to be? For severity, we talk about critical, major, high, medium, low. So let's say major bug, critical, high, medium, low. So you can see the effect of this, that if people cannot log in, it means they cannot have access to the website. So what will you rate it if you're talking about the severity now? Just quick one so that I can move there. I want to finish up quickly. Very critical, fantastic. Thank you. So that's the way, simple way you can understand priority and severity. Have it that priority refers to the order in which the defect should be resolved. So if you put it as 1, the developers will quickly look at the priority. Oh, is 1. So they'll quickly go and be fixing the ones first before they go to the 2s. Before they go, the first, we can still leave them because it's medium. The first could be like, maybe, oh, is the color. The color is meant to be this thing. Cosmetic bugs could be the number 4. So the severity, it classifies the impact of the defect and complexity of how to fix. So that's it. So this is a defect life cycle. It goes a loop, different one. But the only thing I need to know, that every defect you create now is a new defect. From new, it goes to open, it's a state. From new, it's 2 ways. Let's go one first. So I'm going to go through the happy part first before I talk about anything coming from there. So new, from new, it goes to open state. So you've raised a defect, you cannot log in. Straight on, it will be triaged. What does it mean? We have a triage session where we go through all the bugs. So the list of bugs you have there. So you all come together as a team. Everyone is in the team. Okay, what happened to this defect? Okay, it's a login. You might told to explain, but I'll tell you more of that. If you put the whole details in in your bug, you don't need to talk much. So the information speaks for itself. So there's open defect. Once it's opened, the developer knows that. I mean, after the new state, and we have triaged it, we change the state to open. Once it's opened, it's ready for pickup. The developer will start working on it. Once it's working on it, it fixes it. When it fixes it, it changes to retest. It changes to retest. After we retest it, happy, happy, yes, everything looks fine. We close it. That is the happy part. That's the normal happy part. Now, let's take it again. The first phase, when you open a new defect, when we are doing the triage, maybe the defect is not really a defect. They might tell you, oh no, it's not a defect because this. So once it's not a defect, make sure you know the reason why it's not a defect. Get enough information why it's not a defect. I type or I write down. Most of the time I type while they are talking. It's not a defect. You would even be seeing it in my comment because most of the time my defect, I own the defect. So when we cast it, we own it. Like in my own place, we own the defect. So as I'm talking you through the defect, you're telling me I'm already saying YA to chase up, closing the defect, blah blah blah, JB. I know the person that is talking, so that's the name of the person. YA is myself, and I'll type the reason why the defect is there. So even while I'm typing, people could say, "Oh, yeah, me, yeah, it's because of this." So it's what they're saying. I'm putting down to put the defect in my sheet. So once they say it's not it, I will reject it. That defect is closed. We leave it at that phase. So it's out, it's rejected. So once you put reject, it's not that it's closed, it's just rejected. Anything could happen again. So it's rejected. But now, if we've triaged and we've opened it and the developer has picked it up, if he feels that it's kind of a big bug, it's something that is going to cause a lot of problem, or is not yet time for him to fix it in this particular model or in this particular code that they have, they can defer it and they'll put it as deferred. Also, we can go through another loop. Is opened. I mean, it's new. We've triaged it. We've opened it. It's been open state. It's been picked by the developer. So it's fixed it. When it fixed it, we retested. We as testers retested. Unfortunately, it still failed to retest. I reopened the bug. When I reopen the bug, it goes back into the loop. So once I reopen it, the developer picks it. So open, reopen, developer picks it. When it fixes, it goes through this loop again if there's anything. Once it's fixed, then it comes to the happy part and it's closed. That's the life cycle of a defect. All the states, I'm going to explain it one after the other. Life cycle states, new. The defect has been raised but hasn't been validated yet. That's the triage. A member assigned is the new state that we use. A member of the development team has been assigned the defect. That's the new state. Active, I'm giving you all relevant states, regardless of that life cycle that you see. Everything that you can see in a defect in any tool, this is what you can see. I'm giving you the meaning of it. Active, the defect is now being investigated by a developer. So that is the open state also there. Test, the defect has been fixed and is now ready for QA, for the QA team to verify. So reopened, the proposed fix has been rejected by the QA team, so the issue remains unsolved. Verified, some use verified. The defect has been fixed and verified by the QA. Closed, the defect is, if the defect is no longer exists, no longer exists, the state of the bug is fixed and set to closed. So rejected. If the defect has already been raised, not reproduced, or not a defect, then the bug can enter a rejected space. So some you do duplicate. If the bug is if it's been raised already, you can change it to duplicate is a state. So deferred, this is when the bug has been prioritized for the next release. So that's the way it is. So defect priority. The QA team typically sets the priority status when the defect is brought to the attention of development team and is based on the end user's requirement. So look at it now. In priority, these are the states that you can get in priority. Low priority, the defect is not of an urgent nature and can be delayed until more important fixes are completed. Medium, the development team should fix the bug if subsequent build. Then the I, the impact of the bug on the software is substantial and should be addressed immediately. So that's the urgent priority of it. We're talking about the product cannot be used or the defect is fixed, so it should be resolved urgently. These are the defect priority phases. If they use one, two, three, four, they can use it that way. And they'll put one dash urgent priority, two dash high priority, three dash medium. That's the way they set it in I think Jira uses that format. Um TFS, Team Foundation server does the same. Yes, the same way too. They'll set it as with numbers and that. So, what is defect severity? Defect severity is based on how severely the defect impacts the functionality of the software and how complex it is for the development team to resolve it. That's the defect. So, the first phase, critical severity, the defect affects the core functionality of the software, and the QA team cannot continue testing the product on cannot continue testing the product until it is fixed. An example of a defect that is critical severity is one that causes the product to crash often. So, major severity. The defect affects core functionality considerably, but the testing cannot continue testing other aspects of the software without this one first having to be fixed. So the next one is medium severity. The defect impacts just one screen or one specific functionality, but does not actually stop the function from working. That's a medium one. Then the low, the defect has no impact on the product's functionality and is likely to be purely cosmetics. Fixes um, fixes are likely to be improved, maybe UX and UI. So it depends. So they're just low. So these are also severity, the way you rate severity. That takes us to the difference between both of them. Let me see where we are. 21, 10 minutes. So, what are the difference? We know the difference is a development life cycle, is testing life cycle. The entire object of development life cycle is to complete successful development of software, including testing and other phases. That's what development does, including testing. So another phases, development phases, requirement, architecture, data, all different. But for this one, the only objective of STLC phase is testing. That's it. SDLC, the business analyst gather the requirements and create document plans and create development plan. So, but in STLC, the QA team analyze requirements, documents like functional and non-functional documents, and create system test plan. Yeah. So, like that's it depends on complexity of this. You could create a test plan, a seed test plan, that's system integration test plan. It depends on the connectivity. There are just few changes that you need to add there. A system test plan. It could be a big general test plan that incorporates them. So it depends on the exact project you're working on. But the main thing is test plan, the bigger print. In SDLC, the document team creates the high and low level design. In SDLC, the test analyst creates the integration test plan. Then the real code is developed and actual work takes place as per the design document. Testing team prepares the test environment and executes them. So mainly it's not you preparing the main preparation here is how you're going to use your test environment, smoke test it, what you're sending through, input data, the likes. The SDLC phase also includes post deployment supports and updates. Tester execute regression suits, usually automation scripts to check maintenance code deployed. Those are just the so the other phase I just did this. What I did here is just for you to know from where we are all starting to go to each of the phase. So for SDLC, it also starts from code. I use the model way. So from code to low level design, high level design, then the grammar. So the same way is mainly validation and this is verification and validation phase. That's what I've just done. Requirement, system testing, high level design, integration testing, low level unit testing, and the coding. So that takes us to types of testing, levels of testing. We've got the unit testing, integration testing, system testing, and acceptance testing. What is unit testing? They are the codes done by the developers is in small bits. So developers don't bring all the code together at once. If not, you won't be able to develop a great application. If it's login that is the first thing, they build the code for login only, and they ensure that they run the login code in silo. So in standalone, they do it in silo so that at least you are able to run it and it's working as expected. Then you deploy it into test environment. That's what is done in models, bit by bit. After they've done that, they will code for set functionality. It's a different code. So that's why if you are reviewing a code, you'll be seeing the title of the code. You are going to see it when you start doing automation. The title of each of the code, their naming conventions. It gives you a brief and to know that oh, this code, what is going to be working here is the login functionality. So when you execute it, it's just going to be the login functionality. If you put a breakpoint there, you will see that whatever is executing is just on the login functionality. So it's mainly the same. So these are the way I've done it is how the block starts. So it starts from here. Once the unit testing is done, then it goes to integration testing. This is mainly by us and it requires maybe automation phase. Also, we do integration manually. Integration is mainly bringing together everything, an end-to-end process, seeing how it works. They've built login. We have tested login separately. We've tested search functionalities separately. We have tested adding to carts separately. We want to integrate them together, bring them, join them together. So once I log in, I want to be able to see, to be able to search immediately. And also I want to add to basket. I want to make payment. That's all journey. We want to see it flow through. System testing. What does this entail? It entails mainly the application you're working on. What is the main application? We've got a full one. So let's start testing. What application am I working on? What system? We start testing. We start performing system testing on it. Acceptance testing. This is at a level to let us know, is this what the requirement is saying? Is said this? Is this? So you are doing an acceptance testing to validate the system testing you have done. That yes, you said you've tested. Let's know what exactly you've tested. We need to. You have given us, are we, you said in your verification time that, are we actually producing the right product? Now we are validating it. Yes, we are. Is this what the expectation of the user? That's what you are doing at this acceptance phase. So these are the levels of, these are test levels. That takes us to types of testing. We have various types of testing. Non-functional testing. What are non-functional testing? Things that you cannot really test in terms of performance testing. So when we talk about performance testing, we're talking about load, stress, volume testing. How does it come to play? So now in logging, a lot of people, let's take a social media account. We have various social media. I don't want to, we've got several social media. So take an example. If you want to log in into a particular social media, you know we use this. The performance we want to check is that if first you test if one person is using it, how does the system react? It's going to be happy now. It's just one person at a time. So it's not going to. Now check again. If 10 people are using it, now there's something happening. It's not only one person anymore. The system will look, it's not just one person that comes to me. Now 10 people have come. So now after 10 people, the way it's going to react is going to be a bit slow because it's looping it one after the other. Now talk about 1,000 people. Talk about millions of people, billions of people using various applications at the same time. So you need to check when you perform a load, when millions of people are doing it, how is it? Is it stressing the application? How many amount can use this at a time? All these are all under non-functional testing. Security testing. You're checking the security. Can they hack this? All these forms are part of non-functional NF. So we call it NF. You can some people call it NFT, non-functional testing. So is part of NFT. So we've got usability testing. So the usage, how this is being used. Compliance testing, how these are part of testing. So we've got sanity testing. So I spoke to you about smoke test. So for smoke test, I said to you that in smoke testing, you are is done, both of them, both smoke testing and sanity testing, they are done when bills are being deployed. So for smoke test is a minimal test you do. Smoke test is just that you have access, you can log in into do the application. But for sanity check, sanity, you are checking in depth just to be sure that after you have done the smoke test, you are just going through, oh, the search functionality is there, you have looked at it, the banners are still there, you have looked at it, we can still navigate all through. That's more of a sanity check. It's just a bigger phase of smoke test, an higher one. So you have performed the smoke test. The smoke test is just for you to be able to log in, to be able to access the application. That's the smoke test. But for sanity check, it just makes sure that you are actually going further, checking even more than what it's meant to do. So those are the things that you are doing when it comes to sanity testing. Then structural testing. This is in terms of structural base. What are the hierarchy? How is this going to be done in terms of this? So these are type of testing. I will implore you to read this type of testing. I've said everything that you need to know about it. It's no different from what you're going to see on Google. So continuation. After functional test, after non-functional test, we have something called functional testing also. So functional testing talks about the behavior. What are the functionalities? Login is a functionality, search is a functionality, password is a functionality. Those bits of things, features, Features in a car, what are the functionality? You are talking about the car key, you are talking about the windscreen, the door. All these are features that you need. So I've spoken about smoke test. Now retesting and regression. Please make sure you understand smoke test and sanity checks. Smoke test is the first thing you perform, then you now do a sanity check in terms of full, just checking that you still have everything. What the build did not break anything. The build is still, it was deployed, it went fine. Now we are talking about retesting. What is retesting? Let's take an example. You have found a bug for the login functionality, and in that bug, it says that you're unable to log in into you're unable to log in was a bug you raised. You have written a step to reproduce it. Now the developer has come to you. We have done a defect triage, they've picked it up, they fixed it, you've retested, they fixed it and they finished and they sent it to QA. So now your job as a QA is to retest. How do you perform the activity of retesting? The first thing is that you have raised a login bug. You are not looking at anything. Go and reproduce the same step you wrote in the bug. Test that bug with the same step. Does it work as expected? Yes, I'm happy. Does it work with various version of this? Yes, you're happy with it. That's the end of retesting. You are retesting the particular bug you have raised, the particular bug that has been fixed, that you are raised, that was raised. Not you only, any part of the team that raised the bug, you are retesting that bug. Now, what is regression testing? Regression testing is that you have retested that bug. Don't forget, the developer just deployed that bug. But we want to check that that bug did not break anything in the system. So you have to do a regression. What does regression entails? The activity. You have retested the bug, you've logged in, you start looking at other functionality. What is wrong? How does this is this set functionality still working? Can I still make payment? Can this? So you have to look at what you have tested previously to ensure that this. So what you have done is you are doing a regression testing. So that takes us to this type testing debugging. So what is testing? Testing verifies and validates that a software or application is bug free. We've said that in our previous classes. Testing identifies defects or bugs. Testing helps to identify failure of software. You can see that all I've been saying are still the same thing right from the beginning. It's just like emphasizing, emphasizing, emphasizing. And this is the way it's going to go all through your testing career too. So debugging, debugging. What does it mean? I am debugging. I'm trying to check the root of the cause of this bug. Like you can take the data set, maybe if you've got like a payload or a JSON format, you get to understand, you can bring it out. It's just extra check. But by and large, if you've raised the bug, of course, left for the developer to fix it. But we do debugging from our own perspective too. If you want, you can do. I always love to do that with debugging because most of the time is that it quickly points the developer to what they are doing wrong. But you have to look into some logs. So it depends on how it's structured. Some organizations don't let you go into their logs. So you raise the bug, it gets it fixed. So, but you still need to understand meaning of debugging. Debugging is the process of fixing a bug or defect in a software done by the developer. Debugging removes error. Debugging identifies, analyzes, and removes defect. That's all about it. That takes us to the other side of it, which is static testing, dynamic, static. Stop. We are doing something on one spot. We are not moving. Done when code is not executed. E.g., requirement review. I'm reviewing a requirement. That is what is called. You are looking at it, you are reading through. But I don't want to use the word review, reading. I'll use review. I'm reviewing a requirement. This is done at verification stage. Don't forget verification validation stage. Code is being examined without being executed. That's what I told you, that you could peer review a code, they're not executing it, they just tell you this is the login step. After you have put the username and details, and you've put the password, this is when you click the submit button, this is what is meant to do. That's just the explanation of the code. You're not running it, you're not executing it. Dynamic, dynamic, moving, moving, moving. That's what it means. Done at validation stage. Code is being executed and tested without necessarily being examined. So you can be testing using code, you have to execute it. So, final bit of this class today, review and test process. And the test process. A review is a systematic examination of a document by one or more people with the aim of finding and removing error. Given a draft document to a colleague to read is the simplest example of a review, and one which can usually yield a large crop of error when we would have anticipated than we would have anticipated. So you see, the review phase is just simple. Giving you that requirement document, read it through. Do you understand? If you don't understand it, there's no way another person can understand it. So if you don't understand that requirement document, there's no point. If it's too ambiguous, if you feel it's too big, let's break it down. When you are reading things, let it be in a layman that you can speak to people about it. That's the way it is. Types of review. We've got the informal review, just like the normal review of that document. That is what walk through. So now, walk, WALK, true, THROUGH, walk through. So this walkthrough is something that you do in every application. Once you get a job today, you start the job. You just send an email. Please, can someone give me a walkthrough of the application? Do you know what you're explaining? Teach me how that application works. Train me on how that application. But don't use the word train. Train will look so cheap. That's why I'm telling you that this word. So you tell me, give me a walkthrough session. In that walkthrough session, it's coming to tell you that this is the website you're going to test. This is how the website is working. You enter a username, a password. You can be asking questions as you're talking to him like that. You put this detail and it goes through and it goes through. Anywhere you find bug, you can be saying it there. Please tell me, what does that mean? When someone is doing it, I'm giving you a lecture now. I'm explaining to you how to use this application. What does it mean? You are training the person, you are teaching the person. But instead of us to use that word, we use the word walkthrough. That's what it means. So, any organization you get to, you must ask for a walkthrough session because you don't know the application. They don't expect you to know it. So technical review. What are technical review? We've got different process map. We've got the process documents, architectural document, all those reviewed part of it, and that's the phase. Then we've got inspection. Inspection is mainly us coming together as a team in view. We've got higher team to run through, look at the document at large. They are just at hierarchy. So it starts from here, walk through technical review, and that is that phase. And I want to say a big thank you to everyone for tonight. I'm so sorry I took quite long, but I'm going to give you time for Q&A. So let me go and share my window for Q&A. So now let me quickly start through the question. So from the question point of view, when documenting the RTM, do you have to record all the test cases and scenarios against the functionality? So when you're documenting RTM, what you want to do is when we are writing a test case, each of our test cases have a test case ID. Our test case, it has an ID. So let's say the first test case is writing is login with valid details is number one. That's an ID. It should be unique to to number one. There should be no two number one in that test case. The only two times you can use number one is that maybe you like now login. You can now use maybe log1. That's it. Depends on how you want to you do your own naming convention, but that one is the one you put. So when you are now doing your requirement traceability matrix, that number is what you assign to the requirement. So now if you go to login requirement, the user story, and in the user story it says login. So you know you have done valid details. So log one is one of the requirement, is part of the requirement. Log two is part of the requirement. Log three, log 10, log 50, log 100 are part of that requirement. You put it, it's just the numbers that you assign to your requirement. Well. If you want to do a big one, maybe a complex and comprehensive one, if you want to write the and the scenario type on it, is fantastic. All boils down to you. But the easiest way to do it is what I've mentioned. Take a user story, all the scripts that you have written, take each of the log to do that. Please explain more on commit. What does it mean commit? Correct. So to commit means, you see that I told you that it's because we say to commit. Commit is like we want to in your sprint planning, we want to in that sprint, what do we want to do for sprint? So maybe it's a login that we are going to work on in the sprint. So what it means is login is what we are committing into the sprint. Commit is just like this is the action, this is what we are going to do in the sprint. All these things is we are just using it as big English so that you would think that I'm professional in what I'm doing. Yeah, that is what I want you to do. So you two now, the next thing, okay, into the sprint, we'll be committing our test plan. We'll be committing test plan, test cases, your tax. All those things are what you're putting into the sprint. What the job you are going to do in that sprint, you commit all your tax, the tax you want to do for that sprint. That's what it means to commit. So, how do you know the points to include in the test plan from the project mandate? I don't, if you want to tell me the point, not to include what I'm believing that your question is, whosoever Amy Rose, is that your question is, I will still tell you to unmute, but if I didn't answer you correctly, you can tell me when you're on mute. You said, how do you know the point to include in the test plan from the project mandate? So now, what I think you're asking me is that you've got a project mandate. You want to write your test when you're writing your or designing your test plan. I don't want to you want to know how many points it takes you to write the test plan. If that is your question, from that perspective, is a tax. How many days are you going to use? How many hours can you use to write a document? If it's going to take you maybe like 4 or 5 hours, commit it. How many hours do you use in a day? To do you put in this tax? If it's 2 hours, so which means you are committing 3 points. That's it depends. If a point is 5 points, if 1 point for you, there's a way it's calculated. You need to let them know when you are asked. So the 3 points could be three days into the sprint. So part of your sprint, so it will be 3 days worth of work into it. So you know that in your two days or your two hours that you are committing into it is the 3 days that you're going to spend to do that. So those are so because writing a document to really needs thinking. So um so the next one is, do we need to write test plan for each sprint? Or this can be used for all upcoming testing. So, great. Uh, Test plan is a big document that has to be written just once for the whole project. I told you it's subject to update. But having said that, the way people name in some when you get to the work field, the way people take some names, they make it so big and this thing. Some might intend to write test plan in every sprint. I've worked in an organization like that. And believe you me, what do we write in that test plan? To me, it's not the right way. So I had to explain to them that no, don't, it's better you don't name this document test plan. It's a big organization. Don't name this document test plan. They are test cases. So what we do is that we just go into the tool which we use, Jira. We copy the whole script that we have. Then we go into our Visual Studio. We copy all the automation script. We put it the script that we're going to execute. That's your test plan. So what exactly have you done? You've just copy paste the test case, what you're going to execute. That's not the test plan. So the test plan is going to be a one document issuing everything that you are going to do. So it's not done in sprint. So once you have done it, but when you now want to update the test plan, you can now put a task to say update the test plan. Now you cannot use 3 days again. It's only updating. You are putting it. So you think about it. How many days? Maybe one or two. Um, how do you know the points to? Okay, no, I've gone through that one. So please, will you um, practicalize how to do plan strategy? So I'm going to tell you what it. I'm going to show you. I'll explain to you how to write a test plan. It's a topic. It's a topic in this that's going to be done predominantly, I see, next week. So the two classes will be test cases and test plan. Something like that. But those are the part of the last topic. So I will tell you how to design it, what the expectation is, everything that you're going to write into it. I'll explain it to you. I will show you. I will not. I'm not going to give you that document because I found that it will. You won't. You all will not go. I will show you a template. That this is the template. This is the template. This is the template. But in that template, I've removed vertically everything. I only did it as a placeholder. So I expect you to now go as a team, when you're designing that test plan and test strategy, you can say maybe the first person, if you're like 4 QA or 3 QA in the team, we divide each of the feature, each of the placeholder within yourself. Divide it 1 1 1, go again 2 2 2, 3 3 3. So that's the way you divide it. So that when you divide it, you all will be able to be particular of the test plan, and you now come together and integrate it together. You see now? I've used the word. So integrate means marry everything together, all your ideas, bring it together. But when you are going to defend it, because I'm going to speak to your mentors, they are going to tell you you must take that test plan to them, and you must walk that test plan through your team. It's a must. Advocate for it. So the reason why I want you to walk through that test plan with them is that so that they can correct you. If they cannot correct you, come to me. Just tell me, tell the admin. They know how to get me, and I would come immediately and put you. My doors are always open. Anyway, using our project, no, no, no. So using our project mandate, can we practice writing test plan and test strategy during the training session? Fantastic, you can. Please give it up. Who is a DB? Just like they are database analyst. So database analyst. So they are the ones that create the SQL Server, the big database. So there's something happening behind when it comes to data. When you're filling a form, there's something happening at that back. So at that back, there is a database where it goes to. That database, those are the data analysts there. Difference between smoke test and sanity test. I've said that. I heard that some developers always test as that. It's it is because they do not have clear do not clear cookies on their browser. That's why they have bugs. Can you please help on this? So it depends on the testing you are doing. So when you are testing, of course, it's a norm to clear car. But like most organizations now, is that there's a prompt. The reason for this is that on Fridays, naturally, we are meant to all restart our application. But we are all, I'm also guilty of it. You have loads of things that you're doing that I don't want to lose out today. But I've also cultivated that habit. The reason is that if you want a productive week and you don't want to be in a meeting, or you're already performing live testing, people are seeing you, and your application shut up, just everything shut down, and you have to restart the system, restart it before it picks up. Then it's better to do it at least once a week. Once you restart it, it cleans up everything and it's fresh again. So always clear cookies. If they tell you that, you too, before you go and raise the bug, now the person that raised this, Esther, you now, that's where I tell you that ask me questions in class. Esther will never make this mistake again. All of you hearing me now will never make this mistake of cookies again, because you already have it in your head that, oh, they say we don't clear cookies. I know before you raise a bug, you first go and clear your cookies and you retest again. Now tell me the cookie problem that you have. So those are things that we need to get an understanding of. So let me see. No, ahead is the light. So I fly. Okay. Are there situations where critical bugs may have a lesser priority? Uh, to me, um, I would say there are situations, because critical bugs in your test plan, the yardstick should be that critical bugs must be fixed before you can sign off. So, can I ask you a question? If your critical bug is that you cannot access that application, will you rubber stamp your name on it to say, I have finished testing, but I cannot access the application? People will ask you, what did you test then? So there is no, the case is minimal, except those critical case could be you can access the application, you have it, but that critical case can't, they can't, the only thing is that maybe if you find it in test environment, the next person going to pick UAT might just tell you that, okay, don't worry, I will accommodate it in UAT. You can be processing the fix and deploy it to UAT. But but when you are writing your TCR, you have to state it there to say bug, critical bug has not been fixed in SIT, in test environment, is moving to UAT, agreed by JA that this will be fixed. And once this is fixed, then that is when I can say testing is completed. That is your whole, you have said, so you just have to explain in blue and white so that people can see it, that you said it is a document. You are going to send that test closure report to everybody. Now the question is that they read it or not. As long as nobody, you have sent it and you have put it there that is test closure report, make sure if they don't come with any comment, what does it mean? Silent is consent. So that's it. So now let's go further. Um, it's is defect life cycle same as bug triad. Yes. Yes. I would say the life cycle is partly, bug triage is different. Life cycle is different. Life cycle is the beginning of something, like you before something matures, it starts from somewhere. So life cycle is mainly the how the flow, how the defect moves to each state till it is is completed and is closed. But bulk triage. Let's take an example of the UK. If you go to A&E, when you go to accident and emergency, when you're seated there, you don't just go directly into meet the doctor. The first thing is that there's a triage session. What does that mean? Is that we ask you question, and what is this? Okay, now, okay, this person. That during this triage, it makes us know who we can answer quickly, who can still wait down. So those are the kind of thing. So the triage is different. Life cycle is the major phase of it. So the triage is still inside that life cycle. So you have to do that triage. That's where it moves into testing. So final, what is the difference between test type and test environment? Test type are different levels. The testing, the testing done at every level. That's the type of testing we do at every level. Test environment is the environment where you are testing. So in dev environment, you do your unit testing there. In automation environment, you do your in your automation, you do your integration testing, and also in test environment, you also do integration testing. So it depends on that format. So they are both different. The test type are levels, unit testing, which is acceptance testing, they are phases. But the only thing is test environment is different. But let's go. We are QAs expected to test to expected the test cycle report every sprint. No, it's not done every sprint. It's done at the end of your project. So if you've executed it, it's done at the end of the project. At sprint level is only logging functionality you have done. You've not executed the project. You are still working on the project. So it's after the project. So also, is this peer review of the code done based on com- competency, or is it based done before merging the code into QA test environment? So it depends. So most of the time is meant to be done before you even merge the code into the test environment. A peer review is just like now, before you can say you've completed testing, maybe you need a third eye to check what you have validated. Same thing with code. Even developers, to be honest with you, before you can merge your code, they must peer review that code. It's part of the code ethics. You must peer review that code. Someone else must look at it, and that person's initials must be there. It's compulsory. It's compulsory. No matter how senior the best developer can be, someone must peer review your code. That's the way it's done. So I'll just give you some few minutes, please. It's already 11. I'm so sorry, very sorry. Can you just ask me any question for tonight before we call off the class for tonight? Any question? Any question?
I have one last question. It'll be easier quicker if I say it. Am I allowed to say it, or should I still type it?
No, 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 no. Say it, say it. Just
Okay.
unmute yourself and say it.
Okay, thank you. So, like, we went through a number of testing types today, and
Yeah.
the different explanations. In a sprint, how many? Because I know the first lesson we did, you said, we can't do all the testing; it'll be exhaustive. It's not realistic. So, how do you decide which ones have to be done in a sprint, and which one would you say you do at the end of the project? Is there a difference?
No. So what you mean here is that, Alex, in a sprint, there are we in what you have committed into the sprint is just logging. So everything you want to do, the type of testing you want to do there is mainly checking the your acceptance testing, doing the system, you would have been given the system testing, you have written your test cases, you are executing everything like for what you have. So maybe you are even doing your automation alongside. I'm going to tell you a trick when we do the test cases. You are doing your automation alongside. So once you are doing all those ones, I can't tell you that this particular testing is what you're going to do in sprint one. No, it's a loop. It's a loop, it's a continuous thing. So you can't wait till the end. At the end of every phase, you do your end-to-end test. Every phase, you check all the functionality still working as expected. Every phase, you do your smoke test, you do your regression test, you do your retesting test. All types of tests are done there. So it depends on what you're doing. So the login, you must do it. System test, you're already giving the application. What are you doing? System testing. Acceptance testing. You've been giving user story. These are the acceptance criteria to it. That's what you are validating. So that you are still doing on the same user story. So the coding part of it is done by the developer. So he is going to do it. If you are doing your integration test, you as um, a tester also will do the integration testing. So all those levels go with every one of them. There's no specified one for each of the sprint. They all work together. I hope I've answered your question.
Thank you.
Great. Any other question? Mm, Thank you all for tonight's class. We'll meet
Hello.